Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. I'm so excited to have you here with us today as we talk about embracing what is unique about you. You know you're special. You're amazing. You have so many cool talents, so many things that are so amazing about you. And no matter what it might be for you, when you use it, you show up in the world and you make the powerful difference that only you can make. Oh, what a difference it makes. It's such an amazing thing. And I really look forward to just really celebrating your uniqueness, the cool stuff about you, the things that somebody needs to have a party and show you and help you know, and then embrace what is unique about you so that you can stop saying all those things. Yeah, I know, you say them about yourself, and really celebrate you and then live as a thriving entrepreneur. I have 3 great, amazing guests for you today. They're going to help you learn the process of embracing what is unique about you. By showing you what is unique about them, they will help you take things further and thrive in all that you do. I'm so looking forward to it. In fact, with that, let's jump in to our first guest. Join me in welcoming Kimberly Boone. Hey, Kimberly, how you doing today?
Hello, Steve. I'm doing great. What about you?
Oh, having a good day. I mean, it's not Monday, and so, it's all good, right?
Yes. But I tried to be really low key and calm, but I'm actually super excited today.
I know, right? So
Yes.
today, your book, I Am Unique, Not Weird.
Yeah.
Yay!
Can you see it?
Yeah, today is our official launch day, and we want to talk all about the book. But first, just tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I'm a child of God who loves to see people living their best lives or their victorious lives. And I believe that there's only one best life. That's the life that God created you to live. And so I do that. I like to help people do that by life coaching, mental health counseling, and also soul work or ministry work. I love baking. I find that to be very therapeutic. I learned that from my mom. And I recently found out, Steve, that I love writing children's books. I've written 3, but this is my first children's book. And this was just amazing. This whole process was just amazing. So, and a whole new audience that makes it even better.
That's awesome. So talk to us about, go way back to the beginning. Where did I Am Unique, Not Weird? Where did the concept of that come from?
Yeah. So the book was actually, and I talked to her this morning, it was inspired by my 5-year-old niece whose name is Justice. And that is actually the main character in the book. And so she's 5 years old. And so I felt I felt a responsibility as someone in the village of taking care of her. The responsibility of speaking life into her and making sure she knew exactly who she was, because knowing that she was going to have to defend, or not necessarily defend, but battle off, bullying and certain things. She'd need to know who she was. And so I've always wanted Justice to know from the day she was born. I remember holding her, telling her how special she was. So that's kind of how it was birthed. Way back then, I didn't touch it for a while. And then about a couple years ago, when Justice was probably about 3, she came to visit me. And we were at the park, and she tried to engage with the little girl, and that little girl was not having it. And Justice kind of went away upset, and she said, she just doesn't like me. And so her mom and I I think we took the wrong approach, Steve, and we were saying, oh, she just didn't hear you, right? She didn't hear you, baby. It's not that she didn't like you. And then when I got home, I realized we took the wrong approach there, because everyone's not always going to like you, but you have to know. You have to know how special you are. You have to know that God made you that way. And you have to be okay with that. And not only okay, but you have to celebrate that, right? And so even that day, so Justice is born, that was about when she was about 2 or 3. And then I finally wrote the book when she was 5. So there you go.
I love it. So, unique and weird. Let's talk about those 2 words. What is the difference between being unique and just being a weirdo?
Absolutely. Well, I think unique is one of a kind. It's one of a kind. It is set apart. It is different. And as a woman of faith that knows that God says that he created a masterpiece when he created you, that means that you're unique, right? You know, a masterpiece is an outstanding work of handiwork, of workmanship. And so each one of us has to be unique. And weird just has a negative connotation, right? It makes you feel like you're not necessarily set apart, but you're outcasted, right? You don't fit in, you don't belong, right? And so it's so important that our children, Justice and every other children around the globe, every other child around the globe knows that I'm unique. There's something special about me, right? So that's my take on it.
Oh, I love that. So give us a little bit of insight. I mean, obviously it's your niece, but give us a little bit of insight into Justice and who she is and what she's going through that starts the concept of this book for her.
Absolutely. Well, her namesake Justice in this book, Justice is, she's a little girl who knows that she's different, Steve. She knows that she is unique. And the reason why she knows that she is unique is because her parents have told her that she's a masterpiece. And so when she is challenged in her identity, challenged as it relates to who she is and bullied, she can come from that place of, no, I know there's something special about me. So every day in school, every day after school, she's challenged, whether she's told she's too skinny, or she talks too much, or she thinks she's a know-it-all, or she's a tattletale, right? And so by the end of the story, you understand that this is a little girl who, although she's challenged in who she is embracing who she is. And I think she teaches every child that embracing who you are is the most exciting adventure, if you just stand with who you are. And she remembers throughout the story, Steve, no, my mom said this. No, I remember my dad said I was strong. Even though this little girl on the playground is calling me weak and puny and skinny, my dad said I was strong. So I can do this, right? And so we kind of follow her journey throughout her day at school as she's challenged every day. And I think every child can relate to this. I know I could when I was smaller. I spoke to an adult earlier today. She goes, "Where was your book when I was growing up?" And I was like, I needed one too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. When you were describing Justice, I was like, she has older brothers, doesn't she?
No, but she has plenty of cousins. And it's funny that you bring that up, because I had some of my colleagues read the book, and one woman wrote back to me and she says, I was thinking this was a book for girls and boys, and I still feel that way. But one mom wrote me, she says, I need you to write another book with a little boy on the front, because boys have their own identity issues and challenges throughout the day. So I am going to work on a story with a little boy. Now, whether or not he will be Justice's brother in the storyline, I don't know. But a boy is coming really soon, Steve.
I love that. The little boy, though, let's be honest, little boys are kind of weird. The title of that one might be I'm Weird, but that's okay.
But that's okay. I'm still unique, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So Let's go a little deeper for just a minute. I
Yeah.
mean, both of us are ministers and we have a real heart for God and stuff like that. Let's talk about some of the things that can and should come out of it for our children.
Yeah. Um, you know, for me, the main message that I want every child to get when they read this book, Steve, is that, or when their moms or dads or caregivers or guardians read the book to them, is that not only you're unique, but you are unique because God made you unique. And he says you're unique. And at the end of the day, his word is the truth, right? His word is the standard, right? So it doesn't matter what someone else says on the playground. What does God say about me? And when you have that foundation, right? That goes a long ways throughout even adulthood, right? Because when we're challenged in our self concept and our self esteem and our identity, that shows up later. And you're counseling with me, right? At age 45 and 55 and 65, right? And so that's why it was so important for me to get the message of what does God say about me? Because that's the truth. That's the truth.
Oh, I love that. I love the earlier we can get to them and help them be able to know that they're special
Mm,
in a really good sort of a way versus having them be, like you said, 45 or 55 or 60 years old and never having heard that message.
for sure. For sure. When our self-concept informs our self-esteem, and self-concept is just how you see yourself, right? And so if I have a positive self-concept, I'm going to have a healthy self-esteem. And so when those two things are challenged, then our mental health is affected, right? We walk into things like anxiety and depression and people pleasing and things like that, and comparing ourselves, right? But if we can speak life into that child, the truth of who they are, God says that you're a masterpiece. He says that you're a special treasure, that you are valuable. God loves you so much that he has taken time to number every hair on your head, Steve, right? And so informing them of that helps them to see themselves the way our Heavenly Father sees them. And that's the right perception.
Oh, I love that so much. I love how TD Jakes said, it's my favorite TD Jakes quote, and he's got a couple of them. But,
Mm-hmm.
he said, you were so important
Mm-hmm.
that God literally moved all of the universe for you to come into existence. That possibly the two people who were, the two genetic contributors for you, regardless of what names you do or
Right.
don't know them by, that it took
Right.
them in that exact second to create you. That's how important you were. And I was like, wow, that just,
Right. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I love, there's a scripture that says, I think it's Psalms 139:14, that says that we are fearfully, David is praising God for making him. And he says that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And I love that word fearfully, because if you look that up, Steve, it means awe-inspiringly. That means that God made you, and that before he when he thought about you, and then he created you, and in that moment where you were created that you were just referring to, God stood back in awe, right? Of you. You were that special that the God of the universe stood back in awe of you and says that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. So it's amazing, and our babies should know that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, as authors, we sometimes, I hope everybody gets this feeling. That's why I want everybody to be an author. We get the
Yes.
opportunity to be able to create this thing, and then it gets mirrored back to us. It comes to us in print and stuff. And we can read through it and be like, wow, that was really good. I was reading one of my books the other day, and it made me laugh. And I was like, is it something really good or something really bad that I'm laughing at my own jokes?
No, that means it was really good.
And everybody deserves to get that sense of, themselves, and then, like you said, really reflect that awe back to their existence here on this earth.
For sure, for sure. I
Yeah.
had a little bit of that going on last night, Steve. I read the book again. I don't know how many times I've read it, but I read the book again, and I was in awe too of just even the small details. Like at one point in Justice's room here, there is a little a little wall art right there, and it says it has Ephesians 2:10 on it that says you are God's masterpiece, right? And that wasn't in the original story or plan, but somewhere in the process that got there. And so I myself was just in awe last night at just the little details, and then how the story just all comes together, and how God gets some major glory in this. Like, what you say about me is true. You know what I mean? So as an author, it's pretty good to see this all collected together in this book.
Yeah, that's so cool. And the nice part about it for
Yeah.
everybody listening, everybody that catches it on the replay, all of those kind of people, is they can actually get the ebook for free today.
Yes,
Um,
they can.
yeah, and
They
I just
can.
I just put the link in the note, there as a comment in case you didn't see it in the description up above.
Mhm.
It's down below now too, so
Yeah.
that you can get a free copy about it.
You know,
Um,
the real Justice's birthday is this week. So this book is being released the week of Real Justice's birthday. And so in honor of that, not only does Justice get gifts, but everybody's getting a gift. So that free ebook for the next, is it 3 days? I think 3 days
in
will
the
be
next
out.
three
So
days. Get it
everybody's
sooner as
benefiting.
opposed to later, though. Don't wait.
That's right.
All right,
And
I
happy
love that.
birthday, Justice.
Absolutely. Happy birthday, Justice. How cool. What a fun thing. Does
Yeah.
the girl on the cover, does it look a lot like her?
It does. It does, but an amazing story about that. I had a few of my colleagues read the book, and Steve, there was a little girl who she asked her mommy to FaceTime me, and she FaceTimed me. I had never, conversed with the little girl, but her mommy took the book back to her, and she said, "Miss Kim, the girl on the cover looks like me." Excuse me. And that really touched my heart, because she was a little brown girl, and I think representation is so important. And even throughout the book, it was really important for me to make sure even children with disabilities were included. And so there's someone with a wheelchair in here, because every single person needs to know that they are unique, no matter how they show up in the world, right? And so for this little chocolate girl, so beautiful. For that to be her first point just really touched my heart, and that that confirmed that we did something right with this book. So
I totally love that.
yeah.
Well, I encourage everybody, you need to get I Am Unique, Not Weird. Get it right now. Don't wait. It may be free here for a couple of days, but you need to get it right now today. The
That's
link
right.
is in the description or down in the comments now. Either way.
Yeah.
Kimberly, before I let you go, just give us one last word of encouragement about us being unique, not weird.
For sure. As I said earlier, each of us is unique. And parents, I got a little treat for you in the back of the book. There's a little chart here that talks about, I don't know if you can see it, but it's ways to talk to and about our children. So instead of, it reframes things. So instead of using the word weird, baby, you're so weird, we can say unique or one of a kind. Instead of calling them a know-it-all, maybe let them know they're informed, right? They're so smart, they're wise, right? And so there's a little treat in the back of the book for parents to help us along this journey, in an effort to help communicate to our babies how amazing that they are. Each one of us are lovable and capable, and God creates and names us and empowers us. And so not only are our children unique, but the adults are too. And I think sometimes we forget that. And because we forget that, we we don't know how to communicate that to our children. So I just want every adult to know that they are lovable and valuable and capable as well. They are an Ephesians 2:10 masterpiece.
Kimberly, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Steve. This was awesome.
What is unique, not weird, what is unique about you? Have you learned to embrace it? Have you learned to be able to accept how just amazingly cool you are? Well, I'm going to give you a commercial break here to just stop and think about the coolness of you and how you can live as a thriving entrepreneur. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we talk about embracing what is unique about you. We talked about you being unique and not weird. And now we're going to talk with a guest who's going to share a little bit about some of the cool stuff that they're doing in this world. Join me in welcoming Christy Pretzinger. Hey, Christy, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So start us off by telling us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, I am an owner of a corporation, a company that is called WG Content, and we do strategy and content creation for healthcare organizations all over the country. We're looking to move into another vertical, but that's not really my passion. My passion is actually all about creating an environment where people can thrive. And that's what I'm actually working on a book on, and that's what I love to talk about.
Oh, well, do tell us more about your book and how people can thrive. I want to hear more.
Well, when I first started building my business, gosh, a long time ago, 15 years ago, I said to my accountant at the time, because of work experiences that I'd had in the past, that if I couldn't build a business based on kindness, then I would go back to being a freelance writer. And so I had that in my mind as an intention, but as anyone who is an entrepreneur knows, when you are a solopreneur, which I was at the time, you're just busy working. You just put your head down and you're busy selling and filling your pipeline. And then you have to come back and actually figure out how to get the work done. And then you have to go back and sell and, doing all the things. So I always had that, as I said, as an intention. And then as we started adding people, and I think that the kind of people in my experience so far that have been attracted to coming to work for the organization have a similar intention, I would say. So as we grew, we started getting a little more formal about our mission, vision, and values. And our mission is building relationships one word at a time. And then our values are that we are empowered, curious, kind, and fun. So in order to really make those things come to life, there are a lot of things that I've done as a leader and that then the organization lives out every day. I'm sure you all are familiar with how a lot of companies have values that just appear on a wall somewhere or on letterhead or something. And employers are kind of like, I'm not really sure what our values are. So we have different ways. I always say we engineer the structure of things to allow for the weaving of the fabric of the culture. So we have engineered our team meetings so that we have they're monthly meetings, and we have one value that we're highlighting. So it's either empowered, curious, kind, and fun. And all employees are encouraged to nominate someone who has demonstrated one of those values. And we pick it. So like this month, it might be empowered. Next month, it might be curious, and whatever it is. And so people nominate their coworkers, and then our HR person pulls them out of a hat or whatever. And that's the person that wins what we call it, like the Woohoo Cup, but it's actually like a gift card, an Amazon gift card. And then she reads off what the nominations were, who was nominated, and what people said about them. So it's not only a way to recognize your coworkers, but it's also recognition for all of the people who were nominated. And it reminds people of what the values are and keeps those top of mind so you can actually keep living those out. One of the things that I say when you're building an environment where people can thrive is that you need to have stated values, preferably ones that you have crowdsourced with your team. So you as the leader didn't just say, this is who we are. You work together to establish how to repeat what you said, Steve, how you show up. How do we show up in the world? And then you make sure that those values don't change. You don't just all of a sudden one day as a leader say, I think we're going to change. It's not going to be empowered, curious, kind, and fun anymore, because then people don't feel like those things actually matter. So while the expression of those values may change over time, the values themselves don't change. And then they become a constant thread throughout your organization upon which all decisions can hang. And that's proven to be incredibly valuable in my experience in building my organization.
Oh, I love that one so much. So empowered, curious, kind, and fun. I may have to make a plaque of that. That's awesome. I love that.
It just kind of roll off your tongue. It has to be in that order. If you do it in other orders, the words don't go as well. Being word people, we like to make sure that they flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's back up a little bit and talk about the solopreneur. And I write in one of my books that one of the biggest mistakes solopreneurs do is they know this company they want to have, but they don't treat themselves that way. So can you talk a little bit about, putting in all those things you just talked about, but, putting them in place now while it's just you?
Yeah. That's really an astute observation. I hadn't thought about it that way, Steve. I would say one of the things that a thing that I read that I still recommend to younger businesses is reading the E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth. And I believe it's been revised probably a couple of times since I first read it. But what's great about it is that it kind of to your point, and I'll get to exactly what you addressed, but it if you're familiar, I don't know if your listeners are, but with that book, what they do is they say, okay, you are alone, but you are the accountant, you're the salesperson, you're the operations chief, you're the project manager. In my case, I was sometimes the writer. So you're wearing all of these hats. And so they encourage you to, if not doing the hard work of actually writing a full job description, at least outlining tasks that are associated with each one of those roles. And I think to your point, that's a really interesting idea of treating yourself that way too, making sure that if you want those values and you want this organization, as I said, my just broad intention was kindness. And just because I'd worked other places where I didn't feel like I or other people were treated kindly. And I just thought it was unnecessary to not treat people kindly. It's just not that hard to be kind. And so that was just something that I always focused on. And I will say that I really wasn't thinking so much about me. And I jokingly say that all these years ago, part of the reason that I had that was I had my own insecurities, which, we all do. But at the time I was a little bit younger and I was much more insecure, and I wanted to be everybody's favorite vendor and everybody's favorite client. And so we still want to do that, but it's for different reasons. Now that probably was more from a place of insecurity. Now it's from a place of really genuinely wanting to, I don't really necessarily like the word push, it sounds aggressive, but to push our values and our culture out so other people feel it as well. Because if I want to, which one of the things I would like to do in my life in whatever small way, is to reinvent the way people look at the world of work. And if I really want that to be true, then people have to know what our particular culture is and how we treat our employees and how they feel about working in this organization, and what their families see, how they're being treated, because then hopefully their children will have higher expectations for the way they should be treated when they have a job. So, so that's one of the things that, like I said, I might have started with insecurity, but now it's like we really want our clients to feel our culture. We want them to know that our relationship with them is not transactional, that everything we do is built around building that relationship with them, and having radical empathy for whatever situation they're facing, so that we can, whatever, I always say, whatever sandbox they're playing in, we want to find out what that is and get right in there with them and help them solve whatever situation they're facing. So that shows a kindness. Also being empowered, we can help you fix that. And of course, being kind, instead of being like, look, you're doing everything wrong. We're like, look, we may not understand all of the issues that you have facing you, but we can meet you where you are and help you here. And by the way, sometimes work is hard and complicated, but we can make it fun too. It doesn't have to be drudgery.
Love that so much. So, how do we, and this should be such an easy question, but I know it's maybe the most difficult one I'll ask you. How do we discover what our clients need and how we can actually meet those needs?
Well, as I tell, my leadership team, my employees, my son, myself, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and use them accordingly. So I think the biggest thing and the excellent thing that my team of business development people do is they really, really listen to the clients. They ask an awful lot of questions, because frequently, if a client comes to you, especially in a service organization, they may not know what they need. They just know, like, oh, we need a lot of content, or we've got a lot of content here, we're not sure what to do with it, or we need content for all of these different kinds of things. We don't even know what we need. So there's a lot of questions. Do you need graphics? Do you need video? Do you need animation? Do you need words on the page? Do you need bios of key people? Do you need straight web content about conditions and treatments that people might face if they're going to a hospital? And just really trying to dig into that deeper. And frequently what we come to discover is that before they even need that, they really need a content strategy. Like, instead of just all of a sudden, creating a bunch of content and maybe using it once and not getting really the mileage out of it. Well, let's kind of sit down with you and be really thoughtful about, what you need here. And so we have a whole process for doing that, but a lot of it involves asking a lot of questions and then giving them an opportunity to really answer. One of my favorite questions that we ask is, tell me more. And so we will, if you ask a question of someone and you feel like you haven't gotten quite to the depth of it, simply saying, tell me more, encourages that person to speak more, but it also encourages them to kind of look a little bit deeper than their first answer.
And by the way, for those of you that are starting a podcast and you've never interviewed anybody before, that's a great question to learn. If you can't learn anything else for interviewing, just say, hey, tell me more about that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that so much, Christy. So, we build our business and eventually we get to the place where we have that difficult client. I mean, I know you've never had them, but I'm sure you've heard stories at least.
Right.
How do we live out all of those values that you were talking about when we're being treated poorly by a client? And what's some techniques for dealing with those bad clients?
Well, as it depends on where you are, if you are a solopreneur, you might answer that differently than you do if you have employees. When I was quite a bit smaller and had someone on my team who was not treating the client properly, but I wasn't aware of it at the time, and the client was fine with me, and then we got in a room with this project manager, and oh my gosh, the anger was palpable. I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do here? And fortunately, I had built a very good relationship with the higher point of contact, not the project manager who was working with my company's project manager, but with her boss. So I immediately reached out to her boss. To her boss, who I had the relationship with, and said, my apologies. I did not know this was happening. She is off the project as of this moment. I will take this on myself, and we will get this done. And we are not going to bill you for anything right now because the point is just to get it done. We were really up against a deadline, and my employee had been misbehaving, and it doesn't matter, it's a long time ago. But I was, of course, very apologetic and said, we're not going to bill you a thing. And at the end, we're going to track our time. And at the end of it, you and I will sit down and agree to what makes sense. And so I just put my nose to the grindstone, and so did the rest of the team. We delivered for this client. They're still a client, and that was, 14 years ago. And then at the end, we just agreed on something because we had a lot of goodwill, because I had, again, built a relationship with her. It wasn't transactional, and she could trust me. And the minute I saw a problem, she saw me jump in and say, I'm addressing this right now. It's over. That's not continuing. Now, that was more as a solopreneur. What had happened one time, there was an employee of mine who is a delightful human being, works very hard, and no one will work harder than her to find something about you that she likes. So she had a client who was in a different time zone. We're in Eastern time zone. This client was West Coast. And she was, it was like 7 o'clock in the evening in Eastern time zone, and she was making dinner, and she had her phone there because she was playing like music. And her phone rang, and her son, who at the time was pretty young, just answered it. And she wasn't really thinking about it. And it was this client from the West Coast. And the client just jumped right in and started talking to her and asking her questions, no regard at all for the time zone difference or anything. And Carrie, my employee, was just like, oh my gosh, and really trying hard to accommodate this client. But she said, she was very flustered. She said, I'm sorry, just with the time zone different, I was making dinner. My head's not really in this. I'm going to have to take a minute to understand what you're asking. And the woman was being kind of very directive, kind of choppy questions, it didn't feel very comfortable. And then after she'd done this, she said, oh, by the way, you're on speakerphone. There's 8 of us here. That was a horrible thing to do. And so when I found out about it, because culture is the core of our organization, and I will protect that at all costs, I will fire a client before I will allow someone to treat an employee that way, because we work too hard to have built this culture to allow someone I don't even know in a whole nother state to destroy it. So I called that woman's boss, and I'd never met her, and she didn't know who I was. I didn't know her. But I called her and told her, I said, we just don't seem to be able to delight you. And that's really disappointing. And we don't like to do that. So we're just going to, we aren't going to renew. And this is just, I think the best thing to do is for you to find another organization that can delight you, because we seem unable to do that. And she kind of wasn't getting it. She was like, oh, okay, well, we can just do this. I said, no, we're not going to work with you anymore because and she was like, wait, what? And so she asked me what was going on. And I said, I'm not the one who's had the situation, so I really don't want to mention names. I don't know the issues going on in people's lives, but I mentioned our values. And I said, we are empowered, curious, kind, and fun, and we live those out. And the way that our employees are being treated is none of those things. It's really disrespectful and unkind and unappreciative. And we're not delighting you, obviously. So that's just, that we have to end it. So she was like, well, wait a minute. She said, let me talk to this person. I think I know who this is. She did. They renewed their contract. And Carrie then told me, she said, well, they're still really unpleasant people, but they're just not unpleasant to me anymore. And I was like, oh, well, that's good to know. So, as the leader, if you really do stress, if you say, this is what we do, this is my intention, that everybody here knows that they matter, that positions are replaceable, people are not, that I will defend this culture, which means defending the way you are treated, then what happens is they'll run through a wall for you because they've seen that you'll run through a wall for them. And so that also made the client, she didn't like that. And most people aren't mean. That's really, I don't think most people are intentionally rude. Something's going on with them, who knows? But this woman, when I spoke to her, was horrified and spoke to her employee and was like, you can't do that to people. I don't know what she said, but she said something that made it stop. And I thought, well, that's good. And we continue to have a very fruitful, lengthy relationship with that client because we stood our ground, but we stood our ground kindly. I didn't get all accusatory. I deferred and said, I do not know the issues that this person might be facing, what would cause this. I'm not even addressing, I'm just saying it doesn't fit with the way that we work and the things that we prioritize, and we're not delighting you. So does that answer your question, Steve?
Yes, it absolutely does. There are so many amazing things that you're covering, both here as well as I'm sure in your book, and that you do with clients. For somebody who wanted to go deeper with you, how could they work further with you or get a hold of your book or those kind of things?
Well, hopefully the book will be coming out in the spring. We're not sure exactly when, given the holidays right now, and our editor is busy with some other things. We're working on that, but hopefully it'll be the spring. But I'm easily findable at Christy at writergirl.com. Our name at this moment, as we are recording this, is writergirl.com, but we are rebranding, changing our name to WG Content in the end of the first quarter next year. But you can always reach me at writergirl.com. You can email me. You can find me there. Just find the team. I'm right there. And happy to talk with anyone and go further on this. And I've been on other podcasts as well. You can go to our social media and I will share those links with you, Steve. Our social media, our company social media puts all of these out so you can hear more that way. And I'm always happy to talk to people about building environments where people can thrive.
I love that so much. Well, Christy, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Well, thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure.
Have you taken a look at your cultural balance sheet? Have you really taken time to take stock of how unique and cool and awesome you are? I hope that you will take some time today to take a really good hard look at how absolutely uniquely wonderful you are. And then you'll take it and live as a thriving entrepreneur. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to The Thriving Entrepreneur today. Embracing what is unique about you. What does that even mean? Well, it means just being the best you can be in this world, discovering that, and then jumping out into the world and making the difference that only you can make. Let's talk to one more guest. Join me in welcoming Matt Swally. Hey, Matt, how you doing today?
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh,
Doing
thanks.
well.
Thanks so much for being here with us. First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Sure. So I am a chief business officer and a co-founder of a artificial intelligence advertising startup called Omniki. Basically, we pull in advertising data from wherever people are clicking and buying, and we can use a lot of the learnings from that data to generate new ad creatives that perform better. And it's a really exciting time right now with how fast generative AI is moving. And a little bit, I guess I can give you a little more background on I joined Omniki 2.5 years ago, and it was founded around 2018 by Hikari Senju. And then I joined in 2021 and had 13 years at a large company called AT&T prior to joining Omniki, doing a whole lot of different things.
So let's talk about generative AI. And for the people who don't know, first give us a brief description of what that is.
Sure. So artificial intelligence basically learns from large data sets and can produce a whole lot of different inputs and outputs from learning from the data. And it's really taken off in the past year and a half, where you first had OpenAI release DALL-E 2 and then GPT-4, and then there's a whole bunch of new open source ones that came out. But basically, they learn from data. It can produce a whole lot of different aspects of creative, from copywriting for different audiences or your customers. It can produce images. It can now produce videos and AI avatars, and then a whole lot of other ways where the process for creative used to take a long time. It could take months for a campaign. And there's a whole lot of different ways in marketing that with multivariate creative testing, where you got to be testing multiple formats of ad creatives to really perform well. And that's where AI can really plug into the different areas of the workflow and help bring a lot better results in a much, much shorter time frame.
So there's, pretty much two camps. There's a few outliers, but pretty much two camps. There are the people that are just all in. They love AI, maybe too much a little bit sometimes. And then there's the other side of the coin that are just absolutely convinced that it is step one in Terminator Rise of the Machines. Um, can you give us a little bit more realistic concept of really what AI can and maybe even can't do?
Yeah, we're in the really early stages today. So all these companies are trying to figure out ways to improve efficiencies, and it's a lot of trial and error. So for those people that are not embracing it, one thing I recommend is subscribing to some of these newsletters that have the latest technologies on them, trying a couple of the tools every week, and just figuring out the ways you could potentially use it. It's something you're going to have to embrace, as it does empower greater efficiencies. And learning today and spending a lot of time on it as technologies improve, it's going to let people be able to do a lot more different business functions than before. And from an advertising perspective, we can save 4 times cost savings from giving your team more time to work on more strategic things. Like performance advertising takes lots of iterations. And a lot of times creative teams are bottlenecked and want to focus on larger brand type of assets and different things. But where we see it going is greater personalization. So 4 ways we look at it, Steve, and this is a great insight for your listeners, is personalization is not one-to-one yet. It will be there in a couple of, maybe a year, but your product or service or whatever you're doing could have multiple different customers. You could have 5 different ideal customer profiles. You could be selling in 10 different geographies, maybe different countries with different languages. AI can plug in really easily to helping you move fast in reacting to events in the market, or if holidays are coming up. I mean, we can create advertising and creatives in minutes that used to take weeks. And that personalization in advertising is needed now because the algorithms for these platforms like Meta, Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, they're really smart and they're removing personal information. So they can't provide personal information. So they recognize what's in a creative, Steve, and they know what you like. And you're going to start to see a whole lot of things that you like. So if you have the company selling to you has to have creative that aligns with that to get distributed. And then we see it getting over the next couple of years, video keeps getting better, where we're going to be able to use brand assets and piece together your story in a bunch of different ways. But then also you can feed, avatars of yourself, scripts that you can take to organic content in right away. And then it's just going to continue to get better and better. But lots of different ways you can use it, and you have to test and figure out what are the best ways. And then we're building it in directly into the advertising workflow to save time and increase performance.
So for the new person, for the person who's like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. I've been afraid of it, but I'm going to try. What's the best place, blessed way to, kind of dip your toe into generative AI?
So you could go use like OpenAI for free at the starting. A lot of these programs are free for the initial versions. So that's where you can start to go plug in some different questions. Just start asking it a bunch of things you're curious about, different areas of your business that you might have consultants working on. That's an interesting way where, if I want to learn about a different subject, I'll go ask, AI what it would recommend, and then you can work off that. But where we see the future going, Steve, is 10% human input on the front, basically commanding AI what you want to accomplish, what you want to do. Our technology helps make it much easier to guide just for advertising content. The middle 80% can be done by AI, and the last 10% is more of a curation where you are reviewing, you're making sure everything's accurate, it's in the right tone. AI also can learn from your tone. And then once you approve, like on our platform, it's ready to go.
I love that. Yeah, I absolutely encourage people to understand number one, it's not going to take over the place of creatives, but it will help you expand your creativity by giving
Mm-hmm.
you ideas you never knew. And two, ask it the question or have it help you form something, and then don't just take it and throw it out there because then everybody will just know you had AI generate it, but actually take the time to then make it be you.
I completely agree. And you're right. So a lot of the ways that it can really bring huge value now is that creativity aspect. In like some of our technology will build in different tones, different types of ads ideas, like from sales based or humor based, and it gives you ideas right away that would have taken a team a long time and you might not have thought about it. And then again, it's that personalization aspect. Who's your audience? Because then you can really move fast where it helps you make that content more relevant for your audiences.
In case people haven't guessed, I've really, in fact, I was in Chat GPT the other day and I said, "You're my new best friend." And of course it was like, "Well, thank you. I'm not really actually a person and I can't be your best friend."
Yeah,
It can take some really cool things, but it's gonna just help you be a better you. It's not really gonna make you into somebody else.
that's right. And then once again, the one thing I urge everyone to do is just subscribe to a couple of these newsletters, follow people on X that are big in AI, and they're going to share new technologies coming out. And most of these in the early stages are free. So you sign up, you try it out for an hour, test it on your business, make up a business, and see how far you can move along a process of accomplishing a goal, and then learn from all of them, and then you just continually get more skilled at how to use it.
I love that. So let's be good teachers. Take a couple of minutes here and give people some ideas of some things that they really should be using AI for right now.
There are so many different things. So if you're preparing for a meeting type that you haven't done before, you could have AI help you structure the meeting in a certain way. It will give you like an outline. So then you could just quickly go plug it in for whatever the meeting goals are. You can use it in ad creative. I mean, this is the biggest area right now it's being impacted is with images and videos and copy is in ads or content overall in general, organic content. And then all the different consultant type of strategy work, you can learn a lot from AI by just asking it, giving it a situation, asking it for what your goal is, and it will give you a base outline. And then, like you said, you become a curator where you're just, reviewing it, refining it, and then making it your own. Hey, Steve, are you still there? I think I lost you. Hello?
How about now? Can you hear me now, Matt?
I can now.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry about that. I don't know what was wrong.
Oh, no problem. Yeah.
So, for people who want to know more about AI, how can they work with you?
So one, if you want to, for the advertising specific, go to our website, www.omneky.com, OMNEKY.com. You can schedule a demo. You could even put in the notes, you heard about it on the Thriving Entrepreneur. I also recommend subscribing to some of the newsletters. One of my favorites is Ben's Bites. Then you get daily updates on AI, and you also can go try out some of those apps I'm talking about that are being launched. There's hundreds being launched every week. And then you can also reach out to me directly at matt@omneky.com. Would love to connect with people.
And just give us a general idea of what are the right place or the right kind of people to, to contact you.
Yeah. So anyone that is doing B2B marketing or agencies that are looking to scale content where all their customers are going. So one of the biggest challenges with content as well is you could have, like I mentioned, all these different audiences across all the different channels like Meta, Google, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit. And OmniKey is a direct plug into their team that helps them scale that content and analyzes data to learn from it across all those platforms. It takes lots and lots of time to go, prepare and distribute content across all those. OmniKey does that for them.
Perfect. I love that. And give us your URL again, please.
It's www.omneky.com.
And before I let you go, just one more time, encourage us that AI is something that we can make use of.
Every single person out there can make use of AI today, and it's going to just continue to get better. We're just in the early stages of figuring out how this is going to really improve efficiencies. So everyone needs to be at least testing it and learning from it, because those that are not are going to be, left behind. There's an interesting stat, Steve. Last thing I'll leave this on is 75% of executives believe that if they don't empower AI within their organizations, these are S&P 1000 companies, will be in trouble and cease to exist within 5 years if they don't embrace it correctly.
So if you want to be in business still in the next 5 years, you need to be thinking about that kind of stuff now. Well, Matt, I really appreciate your insights. I know that we could go for hours talking about it and just geek out, but I appreciate you getting us started with a primer on this. Thanks so much for being here on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Effective use of AI in your marketing is all about bringing out the best of you. It's about taking the time to not do the things that you shouldn't be taking the time to do. You like how I said that? And it's about really maximizing the uniqueness of you. When you use AI properly, it really helps bring out that uniqueness of you and helps you embrace it, because you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world needs you. That's right. We need the unique you. We need you to embrace it, to hold it in, to say, I'm unique, not weird. And then go out and live your life in a way that makes a difference to everybody that you come in contact with, and allows you to live every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. Oh, I want that for you. I hope until we're together again next time, you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, and have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today.